Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Cadence Corner official live stream here for week 3 of the NFL season. We've got so much to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a massive slate of week 3 NFL games to catch up on and week 4 of the college football world to catch up on. It has been a very eventful weekend, to say the least, with massive upsets, big time wins in the college football world. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got so much to break down. So let's get right into it. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend and were able to enjoy some of these games. We had some absolute bangers in the NFL world, some crazy special teams moments that won some teams games at the very, very end. We saw the Packers go down as a very big favorite over the Cleveland Browns in the very end. We obviously saw my Los Angeles Rams, who I've been all over all season long, go down off of a missed kick at the very end. Jalen Carter blocks it or Jordan Davis, blocks it at the very end. He returns it for a touchdown. We saw some absolute pandemonium in the NFL world. So let's break it right down to start off the show. And we will start in the 10 a.m. window here, probably the game of the day in the NFL world between the Rams and the Eagles, a game that I was so excited for. I've been sky high on the Los Angeles Rams really all season long. I felt that this is a team that can absolutely go win the Super Bowl. This is a team that defensively has looked a lot better so far this year. And throughout the entirety of the season so far, I think they've had one of the best defenses in football outside of 2 quarters. Now they get a 19-point lead in the first half. They are looking really, really good. They're slowing down Saquon Barkley, who is just an absolute thorn in their side last year. In the 2 games that he faced the Rams last season, he had 460 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2 games. And it was like, if the Rams front 7 could stop Saquon Barkley, which this was a huge test for them, if they could stop Saquon Barkley, you really felt like the Rams could go far, because they don't have a lot of gaps on this team all around. It was the front 7 was the biggest question mark, and Saquon Barkley really didn't have a big game. The Rams are up 19 points in the first half. Everyone is feeling really, really good. Philadelphia storms all the way back. They win it at the very end, and the Rams lose this one, and you're still asking yourself, okay, is this Rams team cursed when it comes down to the Philadelphia Eagles? Because they're now 0-3 in the last 2 years. No other team was closer to beating the Eagles last year when you looked at that dominant postseason run that they had when it came to them winning the Super Bowl ultimately. Nobody came closer to stopping the Philadelphia Eagles than the Los Angeles Rams did, and they got so much better this offseason. Davante Adams has looked incredible in this offense so far, and the way that he is complementing Puka Nacua, it's really been extraordinary. And Puka Nacua right now is on another level. I mean, he might be a top 3 receiver in football. He leads the NFL in receptions. He leads the NFL in receiving yards. This dude is absolutely eating right now. And when it comes to Puka Nacua, you pair him up with a guy like Davante Adams, who is still an unbelievable receiver, a guy that is capable of getting 1,000 yards and who is on pace for 1,000 yards right now. This Rams offense really has no holes in it, but defensively, if they could slow down Saquon Barkley, you felt really good about this team, and that's what happened. They slowed him down. This Eagles team really did not look good offensively in the first half, but then after all the noise, all the criticism around Jalen Hurts, he comes up, he steps up in the biggest moments, and that's what we know about Jalen Hurts. That's what we know about this Philadelphia Eagles team. They find a way to win football games, and people don't like it, but they do, and that's been the identity of this football team. They don't make things pretty sometimes. They're not going to blow you out most of the time, except for when it matters. And that's what this Philadelphia Eagles team has done over the last few years. Since Nick Sirianni was hired in 2021, this team has the second most wins in the regular season. They have the second most wins in the playoffs. They've been to the Super Bowl twice, and they obviously just won it all this past year. They don't overcomplicate winning, and that's the most refreshing thing to see when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year, they're 2-2. Everybody's criticizing the way that they're winning football games. Oh, it's not pretty enough. Jalen Hurts isn't throwing enough. It's just Saquon Barkley. Is this team really going to be able to rely on Saquon for an entire postseason run? Well, sure enough, they were an absolute buzzsaw. They won it all. Then this year, they start a little slower offensively, but yet they're still 2-0, and people are still criticizing the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, it's not pretty enough. Jalen Hurts doesn't even have over 250 passing yards through 2 weeks of the season. Can this team really rely on him in the big moments? As if we haven't seen him step up in the big moments enough, people are still questioning Jalen Hurts. Can we rely rely on him in the big moments. Sure enough, Jalen Hurts in the second half, when his number is called, he was almost perfect. 21 to 32 passes, 226 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Jalen Hurts was nearly perfect yesterday. He had 4 total touchdowns. I've been so impressed with this Eagles team, and the only thing that I can think about for this team is winning. They don't overcomplicate winning. They do it how they have to do it, and if they're called to do it in a multitude of ways, if Jalen Hurts has to step up, they can do that. If Saquon Barkley needs 200 rushing yards, and if he'll rush for over 2,000 yards again like he did last season, they can call on that. If they need a special teams play for Jordan Davis to block a field goal, for them to block the last 2 field goals of the game so that the Rams can't win it, they can do that. The Philadelphia Eagles know how to win. And for me, I come away with this game optimistic for both teams. I believe that these are the 2 best teams in the NFC right now. If you guys are familiar with my show at all, I've been sky high on the Los Angeles Rams, and I believe that this team will find themselves in the Super Bowl in the month of February. Like, I believe that they are one of the best teams in football, and I believe that they are the best team in the NFC. So when I look at the Rams, you've got to take away positives from this because it's only week 3. You choke a 19-point game. You win this, and you're like, okay, we can beat anybody in the NFL. This team was absolutely steamrolling. But for me, I look at the front 7 and say, okay, they answered the call. This team defensively was really good in the first half, and outside of 2 quarters so far in a 12-quarter season, they've been one of the best defenses in football. So yes, you lose a little bit of momentum at the end. The refs were definitely not on their sides whatsoever. This was one of the most lopsided officiating games that really doesn't help the Rams at all, but I do believe that the Rams are just fine. I think if Matthew Stafford can stay healthy, that was a little bit of a concern. He kind of got tackled weird and he was hobbling around. If he can stay healthy with that back, this offense is going to be unstoppable, to be quite frank with you guys. I know they went a little quiet in the second half. It really seemed like things flipped quickly. This Rams team is going to be just fine. And, when it comes down to the NFC West, I think they're even in a better position now because the San Francisco 49ers, they just can't stay healthy to save their lives. And we'll talk about a massive injury that just took place for the San Francisco 49ers, a huge demoralizing injury that just really, really is going to hurt this team. But for the Rams, I mean, they are in contention to win the NFC West. They're going to make the playoffs. And you can't tell me there's not a team that you would fear more in the NFC other than the Los Angeles Rams. They're complete. They can get it done offensively. This defense can answer the call. We didn't see it yesterday, and I know a lot of people are going to be jumping off the ship per se. I believe that this Rams team is just fine. Bad loss. They'll get over it. Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers because they just had a massive, massive injury that's probably going to derail this season. And it's hard to say it like that because I felt that this Niners team would win 14 games, and I don't want to overreact here because I do believe that they are a genuinely great football team. It's been the story the last few years for them. They can't stay healthy to save their lives. Nick Bosa, their best defensive player, has torn his ACL, and he will be out for the entirety of this season now. And it just adds on to the list of injuries that they had. Brock Purdy's missed the last 2 weeks. Obviously, Mac Jones has stepped up in a massive way, and the Niners have escaped the last 2 weeks, pulling off big-time wins. And the fact that they're 3-0, you're feeling amazing after last night. And there were some initial reports that said it wasn't as bad. The Nick Bosa injury wasn't as bad as most people thought. So you're like, okay, this Niners team, they're 3-0. You're going to get Brock Purdy back. You're going to get George Kittle back. You're going to get Ayuk back here in a few weeks. This offense is going to be fully ready to go. We've got Robert Saleh getting all 11 guys defensively flying around on all cylinders, and you felt like you were going to get Nick Bosa back. And now to have this injury, maybe the best player on the entire team, a former defensive player of the year, this is a devastating loss for the San Francisco 49ers, a defense that already was so really banged up and was really missing a lot of pieces from last year. They're such a young group. You didn't feel like this was an injury that they could afford to lose, and this really, really hurts the Niners. Now, I still feel confident in them winning enough games to get them into the postseason. They still have a really, really favorable schedule. I still believe that they are a talented football team, but at the end of the day, we still have to talk about them contending for a Super Bowl because that's ultimately the objective when you're playing in the NFL and when you get to the postseason. The 49ers, their objective and what they've ultimately fallen short of doing over the last few years is winning that Super Bowl. They can't win the big game, and everybody knows it. Now to have this Nick Bosa injury that's really, really going to hurt your chances of being able to stop the Los Angeles Rams in the playoffs or being able to stop the high-flying Philadelphia Eagles. You've got so many high-flying offenses and explosive offenses, and to lose a former Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa, it is a tragic injury for the 49ers. I still believe that they will make the playoffs. Once they get Purdy back, once they get Kittle back, and once they get Ayuk back, I feel confident in their ability to win football games. But to what extent? Can this team go out there and win the Super Bowl? I don't believe they can. I don't even know if at this point they're better than the Rams. They're not better than the Rams. They're not better than the Packers. They're not better than the Eagles. And then you're kind of splitting hairs with the rest of the team. Once Jaden Daniels is fully healthy, and if he can get to that cardiac Commanders level, which they were last year, I think the Commanders are probably better than the San Francisco 49ers. Then you ask yourself the question, are the Buccaneers better than the 49ers with their explosive offense once they're fully healthy? I would say they probably are. Then you're splitting hairs with the rest of the teams. Are the Lions going to make the playoffs? Are the Vikings going to make the playoffs? So this is just a devastating loss here for the San Francisco 49ers. They're fortunate to have this easy schedule because I do believe they will make the playoffs, but to what extent can this team realistically go on a deep run? All right, let's talk about it, folks. The Carolina Panthers, they might be all the way back. They might be all the way back. A 30-0. They pounded that Falcons drum yesterday, and Bryce Young, not his worst game. He didn't lose them the game. They look decent. The Panthers defense, they've been really bad this year, but they stepped up. They really looked good yesterday to force turnovers. They were all over Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix Jr. got benched for Kirk Cousins at a certain point. This keeps the Panthers alive. I mean, we understand the percentage of teams that go on to make the playoffs. Once you start 0-3, it's a whopping 3%. You've got a 97% chance to not make the playoffs once you start 0-3. So this was a do or die game for the Carolina Panthers. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I feel good about them. This is ultimately just hindering them getting a better draft pick at the end of the day. I'm not confident about them overall. I mean, yes, it's a good win for team morale, but I mean, Bryce Young, 16 for 24, 121 passing yards, no touchdowns. It's just the same rinse and repeat cycle. Do we really feel good that Bryce Young is talented enough to win you football games? And I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I don't want to get that misconstrued. I don't like to tear down players. At the end of the day, can this team realistically be somebody that is better than the Falcons at the end of the day? Like, this was one bad game for Michael Penix Jr., but this Falcons team is way, way better than people are giving them credit for. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are an unbelievable team. Like, I don't even think the Panthers are better than both of those squads in the NFC South. And then when you're going through every other team in the NFC as a whole, I just don't believe the Panthers are at that point right now. So for me, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this win is going to change everything for me. I'm not the type of person that's going to sit here and look at one win or one loss and say, okay, all of a sudden this team is all the way back. Now for Atlanta, you don't want to see these struggles from Michael Penix Jr., but at the end of the day, I'm going to reiterate my point here. I don't overreact when players have a bad game, when it's one bad game. Michael Penix Jr. now has played 6 full games in the NFL. We can't forget that. He was a rookie last year. He only played those final 3 games of the season. He's now playing these 3 games right now. So he's at a total of 6 games right now in the NFL. So I just don't believe that it's fair to write off Michael Penix Jr. I believe they threw in Kirk Cousins because it's kind of like, hey, let's live to see another down. This is still a long season. We're still 1-2. We've got a ton of talent offensively. This is one bad week. One kind of pretty bad stat that I saw on Twitter was like Michael Penix Jr. is 0-4 when the opposing team scores more than 7 points. And we saw the week before the Vikings didn't even score 7 points against the Falcons. And obviously the Falcons won. The Vikings only scored 6 points. So for Penix, he's got to be a lot better. You've got playmakers. You've got guys that you can get the ball to. So you want to see this Falcons team be a lot better. I'm not going to sit here and overreact. We've got to see a lot more sample size with Penix Jr. in order to give him a fair assessment. All right, let's talk about another huge injury that happened in the NFL. We'll transition here to the Dallas Cowboys against the Chicago Bears. A lot of things going wrong here for Dallas, like we all expected. CeeDee Lamb is now going to be out for 3 to 6 weeks with an ankle injury. Just a really, really dumb play call, if I'm being quite frank. They put CeeDee Lamb in the backfield as a running back. They handed him the ball, and this dude just got absolutely pounded by a linebacker. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, why are we handing the ball off to CeeDee Lamb, who's a skill player, who he's not a running back. He's not built like Deebo Samuel. I get, the idea a little bit. Deebo Samuel had those flashes when the Commanders were doing it and when the 49ers were doing it with him. And the Bears have done it a little bit with DJ Moore, but DJ Moore's a bigger player than CeeDee Lamb overall. I just don't understand why you're putting CeeDee Lamb in the backfield. Like, throw the dude a screen, throw the dude a quick slant. Like, I just don't understand why you're handing him the ball like he's a running back. He's destined to take these massive hits when you're handing him the ball off. So now he's out 3 to 6 weeks. This is a big injury for the Cowboys. You really felt like their only chance at competing this year was to ultimately dominate teams offensively, was to get into shootouts. And this offense was able to do that 2 weeks ago when they beat the Giants, and they almost did it in the opening game against the Eagles. But right now, they don't have CeeDee Lamb, and it's just George Pickens. And George Pickens, we're 3 weeks in, and he's already crashing out on the sideline. So that's not good for the Dallas Cowboys. And now he's going to be the receiver one. I don't think the season is over for the Cowboys, but I was never optimistic about this team. Now they get to go play the Green Bay Packers with Micah Parsons. So that'll be a really fun revenge game to see. But this was just a disappointing performance from Dallas overall. They scored 14 points in the first half, and they put up a goose egg in the second half. Chicago looked really good. I want to compliment Caleb Williams here, because it seems like everybody is so quick to hate on Caleb Williams, to get all over his case and say, Caleb, you're not that guy. And at the end of the day, he played a great game against the Dallas Cowboys. I would say the best game of his entire career, for being quite honest right now. He nearly had 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 19 of 28 passing. Caleb Williams was decisive. He was getting rid of the ball quickly. He was really making good decisions. And this is the Caleb Williams that gets you excited, ladies and gentlemen. This is year 2. We're 3 games into year 2 for Caleb Williams. And the first 2 games of the season were really tough for him. You're obviously playing a really, really good Vikings team. You don't want to choke that game. And then you're playing a tremendous Detroit team on the road. So 2 really tough divisional games. You're at home. A lot of people are already panicking. That's our society. We get that. People overreact very, very fast. We're 2 weeks into the season. Everybody gives up on Caleb. He comes into week 3. I'll keep reiterating the stat, 3% chance to make the playoffs if you lose. And they did a great job of saving their season. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, they looked like they were on the same page. The biggest criticism really that I had for this Bears team and for Caleb Williams overall was, one, once you get out of the scripted plays, you got about 15 to 20 scripted plays when you're starting, that Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are coming together, that they're practicing, that they are saying, okay, we're starting out our drives and our game with these 15 plays, whatever. And then once you get outside of those 15 plays, you're getting the rhythm of the game. You're calling off of what you've got on the play sheet. And what can Caleb Williams do when he's not as comfortable in the actual script of the game? And that's what we saw yesterday. I thought Caleb Williams, when he wasn't inside of the scripted plays, he looked really good. He was making good decisions, was getting rid of the ball on time, was accurate, was decisive. And that's what gets you excited about Caleb Williams, because if he can make the easy things a routine part of his game, that's when it unlocks everything for him. It unlocks the mobility. It unlocks the throwing on the run. It unlocks the different arm angles. It unlocks so many things for Caleb Williams that makes him one of the best quarterbacks that we looked at coming out of college. Everybody said he might have been the best quarterback prospect coming out of college that we'd ever seen because of everything that he could do. And obviously, when you have quarterbacks in the NFL that are really good, you look at Patrick Mahomes, who is without a doubt the best quarterback in football. You want to draft off of that blueprint. The game has shifted to the big mobile quarterbacks with strong arms, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Justin Herberts, the Lamar Jacksons, you name it. So you look at Caleb Williams, who can really do a lot of what Patrick Mahomes does, and he can do it at a really, really high level. He's mobile. He's extremely fast. He can make these crazy acrobatic throws on the run, off platform, different arm angles. This is what gets you excited about Caleb Williams. And the biggest critique that I had about him and what everybody had about him coming from college to the pros was like, hey, we don't need you to be Superman every single play. One, it's not going to work every single play because these aren't college defenses that you're going up against. You're going up against grown men with D linemen that can run 4.4s. This isn't college football. But number two, it was like, can you play within the system? Can you take the easy checkdowns? Can you take the quick hitches, the quick slants, the 5-yard outs, you name it? And if Caleb Williams became proficient at that, you felt really good about his ability to start all of a sudden playing with his entire repertoire and really utilizing all the tools in his tool bag, because he's got a deep bag and he's got a lot of different tools in there that really makes him a special player. So when you see a game like this, his best ever game in the NFL, week 3, with everybody already jumping off the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams ship, you feel really good about his ability to have a big season and to keep this Chicago Bears team competitive. Because I look at the rest of their schedule for about the next 5 weeks, you feel confident that Chicago can get on a little bit of a run here and make things interesting. You go on the road against Las Vegas next week, then you get an early bye week, get healthy, then you're going on the road against Washington. That'll be a tough game, but Chicago, if the defense is a little better, that'll be competitive. Then you get New Orleans at home. That's a free win. You go on the road against Baltimore. That'll be tougher. Then you're on the road against Cincinnati. Very, very winnable game with Jake Browning or whoever they have at the quarterback position. And then you've got the Giants. So you've got 2 tough games and you've got about 4 or 5 winnable ones coming down the next 7 weeks here. So I feel confident in the Bears' ability to stay competitive, to win football games. And if they can do that and just continue to get better, to build off of this performance, the Bears will be a good football team, and Caleb Williams is going to be an absolute stud. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I think they are going to definitively make the playoffs this year. The NFC is a bloodbath. The North is a bloodbath. We all understand that. But that's not to say that this can't be a tremendous year for year 1 of the Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams era to take a massive step forward in the right direction, because that's what you wanted to see. You're ultimately satisfied if you're a Bears fan and you say, okay, we won 8 games or we won 9 games with a really, really tough schedule in a really, really tough division in a really, really tough conference, but Caleb Williams is the solution. And now him going into year 3 with Roma Dunze, who's had a tremendous breakout season, with DJ Moore, with Luther Burden, with Loveland, with all of these toys and weapons that Ben Johnson now gets to scheme with, you really believe that this team, okay, they can take a big leap now. It's all about seeing the promise from Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson in year 1. And this is great for what this season is ultimately going to represent. The Bears aren't going to win the Super Bowl this year, newsflash. I think a lot of people understand that. Is this team even going to make the playoffs? We don't know. But let's see this Bears team take a step in the right direction for once. They've been the offseason champs in the NFL over the last 2 to 3 years. That's been the kind of the running joke in the NFL. The Bears are the offseason champs every single year. Let's see them take a step in the right direction. And that's genuinely where I feel the Chicago Bears are headed. I was really pleased with the performance from Caleb Williams. Love the fact that he's just been blocking out all of the noise. This is a really, really big win overall for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. All right, let's talk about some of the pandemonium that took place. I mentioned it a little bit at the top of the show. We talked about how the Green Bay Packers lost as an 8.5-point favorite outright to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland with a huge win, really going to show that, this team is going to be competitive. And I think that's how a lot of people felt about Cleveland overall. It was like, hey, this team's probably not going to make the playoffs. You've got a 2-time coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski, who will have this team competitive. You got Myles Garrett, who got one of the biggest non-quarterback contracts in NFL history. Joe Flacco has been a consistent quarterback, I'd say, over the last 2 years. He's gotten the job done, but realistically, you didn't have huge expectations for this team. Now they get a big time win over the Green Bay Packers. They score 13 points in the fourth quarter. They block a potential game-winning field goal for Green Bay. They come back on the other end, return with their own game-winning field goal. And this is a huge win ultimately for Cleveland, keeps their season alive. I don't have too much more to really go into outside of that. For Green Bay, a disappointing loss, tough one. This is how a 17-week season goes. I don't think anyone should be panicking about this, if I'm being quite honest. Green Bay, they've got some injuries going on. This receiving core really is just ravished right now. It's just had so many injuries. They're just piling up like crazy. You don't have Christian Watson. You don't have Jaden Reed. This receiving core has got to get healthy if the Packers are realistically going to make a deep run. A lot of people have been saying, oh, this Packers team, everyone was overreacting after the first 2 weeks. They're really not that good. I mean, I just completely disagree. I think that's a foolish thing to say. I would say as of right now, I have them as the third best team in the NFC. I'm still going Philadelphia at 1. I'm going the Los Angeles Rams at 2, and I'll take the Green Bay Packers at 3. That's not to say that everything's still not in front of them. Losing to the Cleveland Browns in week 3 without your best receivers is meaningless to me. Okay, sure, it's a tough loss, whatever. You're super banged up. You don't have your top 2 weapons. Matthew Golden had his best game as a Packer, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. Jordan Love, yeah, he had that interception. Things look tough, but this Packers team, this defense is still really, really good. They were pitching a shutout until the fourth quarter. Some turnovers really started to hurt them. I still believe this is maybe a top 3 defense in football. Micah Parsons is only going to continue to play better within this system and play more snaps. This should really, really excite Packers fans, in my opinion, because hey, let people count you out. Good. The honeymoon phase is over. Good. Everyone was talking about how the Packers are so good. Nobody's going to be able to stop them. They became the favorite to win the NFC. Good. The honeymoon phase is over. Let people get off your train. Let people get off of you guys. The bad narratives will start to come back. Oh, Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions in the postseason last year. Are we sure he's still that guy? He really regressed last year. This is Jordan Love's 3rd season starting in the NFL. And I will continue to defend this dude until the day I die because I believe he is a top 10 quarterback in football. I believe he is an unbelievable talent. And I believe that he's never really had a great opportunity to show the best of his ability in the NFL because this team has never had a great receiving core for him. And they finally draft the first round receiver this year. And then you have your 2 other top receivers go down. And so you really haven't been able to see them put it all together offensively. And I think once they do, they're going to be a great football team. And this is an unbelievable defensive team, And this offense is still going to play so well. Tucker Kraft is an emerging top 5 tight end in football. Josh Jacobs can do his thing. He hasn't had quite the start to this season that everyone has expected. Last year, he had over 1,300 rushing yards and was just a bell cow back for this team. Once the receiving core all comes together with Golden, who's a rookie, once he starts to get a little more cohesive, I guess, per se, in this offense, they're really going to figure it out. And I think this Packers team is just fine. Yes, it's a tough week 3 loss, but at the end of the day, it's the Cleveland Browns. They're not a bad football team whatsoever. They're going to keep every game competitive, and they're going to squeak out those tough ones every once in a while. So no, I am not overreacting whatsoever at the Green Bay Packers. All right, we won't take too long to talk about the battle of the backup quarterbacks. An interesting thought slipped my mind when I was thinking about the Cincinnati Bengals against the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota just beat them like a drum. I mean, unbelievable. Minnesota 48-10. I couldn't even believe what I watched. I mean, just a terrible performance from the Cincinnati Bengals. Their season's over with. No Joe Burrow, obviously, for 3 months. There was maybe for a split second, a thought in my mind. I'm like, yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals can maybe be 6-7. I'm not saying that for the meme. Maybe they could be 6-7 by the time Burrow comes back for the final 4 games of the season, and Burrow can pull some late game heroics or late season heroics like he did last year and get the Bengals into the postseason. And we just have not seen anything positive from Browning and this team so far. I mean, it's just so abysmal. The offensive line stinks. The defense is atrocious. 48 points. Are you kidding me right now against Carson Wentz? The only other thing I'll say that is kind of an interesting thought, and let me know what you guys think down below. I know you're in a really weird spot if you're the Minnesota Vikings because last year was supposed to be the year that J.J. McCarthy comes in, so you have Sam Darnold, who's the starting quarterback. He wins 14 games. The Vikings, yes, they lose in the first round, but you've still got McCarthy. Now to start this year, in the first 2 games, McCarthy has struggled, but he's obviously going to get his opportunity again. I think he's out this week against the Steelers, but he's going to get another opportunity this year. But it's like, how long is the leash for J.J. McCarthy? And I'm not sitting here saying that I believe he's going to get benched or that I believe he's not even a good quarterback. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a really, really good quarterback. So let me put that on the record, first of all. Second of all, How long is his leash with this talented of a team, with this great of a defense, with this great of a surrounding cast, with the best receiver in football, top 5 tight end in Hawkinson? You're going to get Addison back now this week. You've got Adam Thielen. You've got a good offensive line. You've got a good running game now with Jordan Mason. The question I keep asking myself is, how long realistically is this leash for JJ McCarthy with this talented of a surrounding cast? And we see right here, Carson Wentz, I mean, yeah, they put up 48 points. They put up more points than the Vikings have in the first 2 weeks of the season. And then some. Like, what? How long is this leash realistically for JJ McCarthy? If you're Kevin O'Connell thinking, oh my gosh, I can win with any quarterback I have, and JJ McCarthy's just not putting the pieces together, and yet in the NFL, your shelf life is only so short. Realistically, how long can my team survive going with JJ McCarthy? If it's not working, if you're at a spot where you're, 5-5 when JJ McCarthy's barely putting up points, do you say, hey, Carson Wentz, get us into the playoffs? Like, we need someone to get us into the playoffs right now, and we need to hit the reset button on JJ McCarthy and give him another opportunity. Now, I know we're thinking really far in advance right here, but it's a question that I thought about. How long is JJ McCarthy's leash when you have this talented of a team around any quarterback that Kevin O'Connell can just drop into the system and he can get you into the playoffs and win you 14 games? Kevin O'Connell is ridiculous. I mean, this is week 1 with Carson Wentz, and they put up 48 points. Now, the defense, they generated a lot of points. They scored a lot, but I'm curious to see if this Vikings team this week goes up and they beat the Steelers. They're playing an international game. I want to say they're in Dublin, Ireland. Yeah, they are. If they beat the Steelers, who have a pretty decent defense, they haven't been elite this year, but if they beat the Steelers in a pretty dominant fashion, let's say they put up, more than 24 points, more than 30 points. If you're Kevin O'Connell, at what point do you say, we got to roll with the hot hand here, because our shelf life is only so long. We've only got all these guys for so long. Brian Flores could be a head coach next year. Realistically, are we just going to, okay, the season's over. This is a McCarthy, let's try and get it together. And they're never going to fire O'Connell because he's such a great head coach. And it's not like, okay, KOC, you're on the hot seat if it doesn't work out with McCarthy this year, like a few other coaches are right now. Mike McDaniel, if him and Tua can't figure it out, which it looks like they aren't, he's probably going to get fired. Brian Dable of the New York Giants, if it's clearly not working with Russell Wilson, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit in the show, but it's like, realistically, how long is Brian Dable's leash now? A lot of people said he's on the hot seat. You've got Jackson Dart, a first-round pick. You don't get very long in the NFL if you're a coach and you can't win. Look at Shane Steichen in the Indianapolis Colts. They gave Anthony Richardson 2 years, and the progress was so minimal. They said, Daniel Jones, you're our guy, and they're 3-0 right now. You don't get a long shelf life in the NFL, period. No matter where you are, no matter if you're the coach, no matter if you're the left guard, if you're the kicker, you're the quarterback, you're under a bigger microscope if you're the quarterback and if you're the head coach. Now, Kevin O'Connell's not on the hot seat whatsoever, but I'm wondering to myself, how long is this leash? I can't imagine it's very long. I mean, now he has the great week 1, and I think things would be a lot different, and my tune would be a lot different right now if he didn't have 3 touchdowns in the first quarter against the Bears and things didn't change, and, they come back in week 2 and they don't score a touchdown and they only put up 6 points. But if this team is 5-5 and, let's say they win this week, they'll be 3-1, you've got a tough 5 to 6 week schedule where you're at home against Philly. You're on the road against the Chargers. You're on the road against Detroit. You're at home against Baltimore. You're at home against Chicago. Then you're on the road against Green Bay. I mean, 5 out of 6 of those teams are playoff teams. Realistically, this team could be 6-6, could be 5-6 through the first 11, 12 weeks of the season. What does that leash look like for JJ McCarthy? And I definitely think, by each week that passes, we're going to get more of a idea, I guess, per se, to see really where this team is heading in that direction in terms of winning. Now they get, 2 easy weeks in a row. So they should be, in my opinion, 4-1 by the time they play Philadelphia. 3-2 could also be in the cards as well. But we've got a really interesting quarterback decision and battle kind of going on right now in Minnesota. And I think it's something to definitely keep your eye on. I'm curious to see how long this leash is for JJ McCarthy and company. I really am curious. All right. We're a little over halfway through the show. We've got a few more games to roll through here. I want to go through them a little quicker. We're getting into it right now because I want to talk about a little bit of Monday Night Football for you guys. We've got a nice little Lions-Ravens matchup tonight. And then I want to go through a little bit of college football to end the show. So I'll speed through this a little bit quicker here. I know I'm taking my sweet old time. All right. We've got the Indianapolis Colts now at 3-0. They take down the Tennessee Titans. Kind of a interesting storyline that came out of this game. Michael Pittman, obviously the wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, said in the pregame warmups, he was looking over at Tennessee and he said, those guys were so lethargic, it didn't even look like they wanted to play. Now, that's obviously not a great quote for an opposing player to say. And I don't think that Brian Callahan, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, is on the hot seat. But I mean, shoot, if you win 2 games, if you win 1 game, I think all the cards are on the table at that point. And especially with something like that, if your guys aren't getting up and ready to play. Now I know it can get tougher when you don't have wins, but I mean, we're going into week 3 here. Your season's on the line. You've still got optimism. You're at home. You've got the number 1 overall pick. I mean, there is no excuse to not have, some vigor coming into this game thinking, hey, we can go win. Like, I don't know what that was all about. But I mean, I don't think anything is out of the cards right now for Brian Callahan and company. Really big win for the Colts. They've looked really good so far. I'm not going to sit here and overreact and say I think they're even going to make the playoffs. Yeah, they're 3-0. Daniel Jones has looked good. I'm not going to sit here and say I really think they're going to be a great football team. I said this last week on the show. They need to capitalize on all of these early wins because their schedule gets really hard in the second half of the year. So we can talk about the Colts. They might be, 6-2, 7-1 by the time they get to that second half of the schedule. Good for them. It's just like the Steelers where they were 11-0, and I told everybody that they were overrated. Everyone called me crazy, and then they lost in the first round. That could be the same situation here. I still want to see a lot more from this team, so we'll see ultimately what happens. The Pittsburgh Steelers are now 2-0, another big-time win for Pittsburgh. They're winning football games, folks. They are winning football games, and that's what Pittsburgh does. The defense looked better. They got turnovers, and that's ultimately what you want to see if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. 5 turnovers yesterday. That's Pittsburgh Steelers football. That is the identity of this team. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to throw for 139 yards. We're going to have a total of 64 rushing yards, but we're going to hold our opponent to 14 points, and we're going to get 5 turnovers. That is the definition of Pittsburgh Steelers football. Now, I still haven't seen enough from this team to say, yeah, they can go win the Super Bowl, or yeah, they can even win a playoff game. They are very reminiscent of the Steelers over the last few years, and Rodgers is not playing bad football at all, and this was the best defensive game from this team. I want to see a larger sample size. It's only week 1. They didn't look good in the first few weeks of the season, but hey, Pittsburgh is winning. That's all you can ask for right now, and you got to capitalize on these wins as much as you can because they've also got a really tough second half of the schedule as well, so stack these wins up as much as you can before you've really got to go into a gauntlet in the second half of the year. All right, let's go into our final few 10 a.m. games here. I think the Houston Texans are probably the most disappointing team in the NFL right now. This was a team that I really felt could take another step with CJ Stroud in year 3 and they could really become a Super Bowl contender. And we just have not seen that whatsoever. They've been really, really disappointing. That's the main thing that just comes to my head. And I don't know how to pinpoint it. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for CJ Stroud. So far this season, this Texans offense has maybe been the worst in football. It's a shame to see because this defense is probably top 5 in the NFL. DeMeco Ryans really has those guys playing with their hair on fire. And for them to be this anemic offensively, it really is a shame because they have such high expectations. You've got good receivers. The offensive line isn't great, but Stroud, he doesn't look like himself, and I'm not giving up on him. I still think he's a top 10 quarterback in football, and this has kind of been the recipe that we've seen with this Texans team. Last year, nobody was high on them. They had all those injuries, and Stroud still won a playoff game. So I'm never going to count out C.J. Stroud in this team. They've got some wins on the schedule, but they've got to start winning soon because the schedule does pick up, and you felt like they should have won a lot of these games. There was an opportunity where it was 10-10 in the fourth quarter. They're right outside the red zone where they have an opportunity to kick a game-winning field goal, and they're just continuing to get deeper and deeper with like 3 minutes left. Nico Collins fumbles the ball. Jaguars get the ball. They go score. They win the game. So it really is a shame what we've been seeing. You get Tampa Bay on a 4th and 10. Baker Mayfield escapes. He converts. They go win the game. It really is a shame. Like, week 1 against the Rams, they're driving the football again. They turn it over and they lose by 5 points. They've had so many opportunities. They've been playing so sloppy as a team. And the fact that they haven't been able to put it all together is really disappointing. And now you're staring at a team that's 0-3. They've got a 3% chance to make the playoffs. The Colts are now 3-0. You've got some teams that are winning games. And realistically for the Texans, can they make it into the playoffs? I'm not going to count them out, but I don't think this is a team that can make a deep run like I thought they were going to. This was supposed to be a team that could not only win one playoff game, but could win multiple and could get to the AFC Championship. I felt this defense was that good, and I felt the offense would take another step. We simply have not seen that from the Houston Texans. All right. Afternoon slate here. We talked about the Bears and the Cowboys a little prematurely here, but the Los Angeles Chargers are a buzz saw. Justin Herbert is 100% a bona fide MVP candidate. He is playing some excellent football, the best football of his entire career, as a matter of fact. He looks so good. This O-line is doing a great job of keeping him upright. It was a little shaky yesterday, but you're going up against the best defense in football. Herbert's got the most passing yards in the NFL. He's tied for the most passing touchdowns. Quentin Johnston has come alive, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he looks so good. Nobody could have expected this type of a turnaround. A guy that was a first-round pick in 2023 really struggled in the first 2 years of his young career, had so many drops. Right now, he is playing some great football. He's got the 6th most receiving yards in the NFL, tied for the 3rd most touchdowns with 3. He's averaging over 17 yards per reception. Quentin Johnston, if he can continue to play like this receiving core has really come together. Really, really nice. Obviously, with Ladd McConkey, who was a rookie wide receiver last year who had over 1,000 receiving yards. Keenan Allen is kind of this perfect cherry on top for the team, had a huge receiving touchdown yesterday. And if QJ can continue to be that guy, this Chargers team, they really don't have any flaws, in my opinion. Now, a really devastating injury to Najee Harris, who by all accounts looks like he did tear his Achilles, very, very unfortunately. But for this Chargers team, you've got a really solid offensive line. You've got one of the best quarterbacks in football. You've all of a sudden got a receiving core that might be top 10 in the league, and a defense that is really great, coached under Jesse Minter. You've got to be feeling really good if you're a Chargers fan right now, because in the AFC, everybody has understood that over the last few years, it's been this conversation of Buffalo, of Baltimore, of Kansas City. Those were the 3 teams in the AFC that were revered. Everybody knew they were going to be there. Some combination of those 3 teams. It was going to be those 2 out of 3 in the AFC Championship every single year. But it feels like this year, the Chargers are in that mix. They are the team that you don't want to see, because if Justin Herbert's got the time in the pocket, he can make any throw on the football field. This team is big, they're physical, they're tough, they'll dominate you at the line of scrimmage. They've got a great defense. They'll heat you up once they get Khalil Mack back. This is a really, really good football team, and I've loved what I've seen from the Los Angeles Chargers through 3 weeks of the season. I can't wait to see a bigger sample size for when this team starts to play some of the better teams in the NFL. And I shouldn't even say better teams in the NFL. I mean, they've already beat 2 playoff teams and a team that was in the Super Bowl last year. Now, obviously, the Chiefs are kind of a shell of themselves, but they beat the Chiefs in Brazil. They just beat the Denver Broncos. They're 3-0 in the AFC West. The Chargers are playing some really, really good football. And honestly, as I go through their schedule, I mean, there's not a team on here that is better than them definitively, other than, maybe going on the road against Kansas City and playing Philadelphia at home. I mean, I think every other game is very winnable for them. They can beat Houston. They can go on the road and beat Denver. They can beat Washington. They can beat Minnesota. I really think this Chargers team can not only win a lot of football games, but they can win the number one seed in the AFC. And how wild would that be if the road to Santa Clara through the AFC resided in Los Angeles? That would be a wild, wild occurrence. But Jim Harbaugh, he's one of those coaches. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. You can never count that man out. And he's got this Chargers team playing some excellent football, and he's got Justin Herbert playing the best football of his entire career. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs, and they're back on the board. They're back in business. It wasn't pretty. It took a second half little spark to get to this point where you felt comfortable that they could beat the Giants, but hey, they won. That's all you're asking for right now. And they've got, a tough schedule this year, but reinforcements are coming. Xavier Worthy could be back this week. By the time they play Baltimore, Rashee Rice is coming back after a 6-game suspension. If the Chiefs can be 3-3 by the time they play Las Vegas, and by the time they get Xavier Worthy back, and by the time they get Rashee Rice back, look out, NFL world. This Chiefs team is going to be just fine. This was a huge win. Do or die. Had to have it. Patrick Mahomes makes plays when he needs to. He's the greatest player on the planet. I loved what I saw from this Chiefs team, and I genuinely believe they will win the Super Bowl this year. Everybody's just got to take a deep breath, give them a chance, give them some time to stick around, to win even when it's not pretty, because they don't win pretty anymore. We've known this for years now about the Chiefs. You can throw that out the window. This is not the same Chiefs team in 2020 that won the Super Bowl, that wins in a pretty way, that throws these deep balls to Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Mahomes is throwing for 5,000 yards a season. No, this is not that's not the same Chiefs team. They are going to win close games. They're going to win dirty games, but I think they can open things up in the second half of the year once they get all the reinforcements back. All right, let's talk about Monday Night Football. We've got a banger on our hands tonight. We've got the Detroit Football Lions going on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. Both teams 1-1, looking to take a massive Week 3 victory that's going to be very, very vital for the rest of each of these teams' seasons. They've both got really tough schedules. For Baltimore, it's a tough 4-game stretch they're entering right now, a brutal one, at home against Detroit, on the road against Kansas City, and then at home against Houston, and at home against the Rams. For Detroit, this schedule in general is extremely tough, but this is ultimately a game where I believe that the Ravens take advantage of a not a bad Lions team, but of a Lions team that is not what they used to be in the trenches, I would say. I think the Ravens are such a dominant football team, and they can win in such a multitude of ways, where I feel like if the Lions aren't running the football at a high level, they can't be as explosive as they want to be in the passing game, in my opinion. The Lions over the last few years have been a team that can run the ball at a high level. They get to that play action. That's when they start to burn you. But if they don't have that, realistically, Jared Goff dropping back 30, 40 times a game, it's not the recipe for success for this team. So if the Lions can run the football at a high level with Sonic and Knuckles tonight, with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they will be getting to that bread and butter of the offense that is the play action. For the Ravens, I believe in Lamar Jackson. I believe in his ability to win in a multitude of ways. He can not only get it done with his legs, but he can get it done with his arm. He's one of the best passers in the game. He's trying to make another resume where he can go win an MVP again. Like, Lamar Jackson is that good right now, and we're seeing Derrick Henry put together just another tremendous season. I think he's going to be huge in the trenches. I like Baltimore to win this one. Lamar Jackson, I believe, is 24-2 against the NFC in his entire career. He's one of the greatest regular season quarterbacks that we've ever seen. It's hard to see this dude lose this game. I like the Ravens to win this one. I don't envision them starting 1-2. I think they'll have a great sense of urgency. Give me the Ravens to win this one. All right. Let's count down the show here, talking a little CFP, because we had some massive storylines that took place in college football this week. I'm not going to sugarcoat it anymore. The biggest storyline in college football is Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. Oh my goodness. The wheels have officially fallen off. They have fallen off. This team has fallen from the sky, and it's a free fall at this point. The fact that they are 1-3 is mind-boggling. This was a team that started, I want to say, as the fourth ranked team in the AP poll. Everybody had them going deep in the college football playoff. Everybody said, including myself, hand up, I picked them in the national championship this year. A lot of people had them winning it. A lot of people felt they were the most well-balanced offensive team in the nation. A lot of people felt that they could get it done not only offensively, but they had one of the best D-lines in the nation that was going to really make this team one of the best defensively in the entire country. And for them to be 1-3, almost losing to Troy, that would make them 0-4. It is a shame right now. And you saw Dabo Swinney get emotional after this week 4 loss. And you're like, dude, is he going to get fired right now? And I think one of the crazier parts about this entire situation too is like Cade Klubnik was a guy that could realistically not only win the national championship, but he could win the Heisman. He could increase his draft stock into the number 1 overall pick. And you just felt like, okay, if this happens, he could be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And it's really gone the exact opposite way. This is really surprising for me. And he's going to have another year of eligibility after this. So I'm really curious to see ultimately what he does, because he'll still be a draft pick for sure. But I'm curious to see where they have him going. This has just been a really big free fall overall for the Clemson Tigers. This has stunned me, to be quite honest with you guys. And I can't believe that we're looking at a Clemson team that could not only lose, the entirety of their program pretty much. Klubnik, Swinney. I mean, this is a team that the era of Clemson as we know it, it's officially over. 1-3 is unbelievable. I can't even believe it. We have some other massive storylines in college football. One of the biggest drum whoopings I've ever seen. We saw Illinois with Fernando Mendoza absolutely dominate Illinois. I mean, 63-10. Are you kidding me? Fernando Mendoza completed 21 out of 23 passes, 267 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he was absolutely cooking. And this Indiana team, hand up, I was wrong about them too. I felt they were a really overrated team coming into this season. And the fact that they had this type of a statement win against Illinois is honestly unbelievable. I had Illinois making the college football playoff. I couldn't believe what I just watched. This was an anemic performance from Illinois offensively. And now they've got to play USC at home, who they're a 5.5 point, they're now a 7.5 point underdog too. Oh my goodness. This opened as a 1.5 point spread. It is a 7.5 point spread now. People have officially given up on Illinois. This is absolutely wild. They've really taken a big free fall too. And I can't believe what I'm witnessing with this team. Illinois with a shocker on the road against Indiana. This was a huge loss for the Fighting Illini. All right, in our other 12:30 game, we saw Auburn go on the road against Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold against his former team. He played a really impressive performance, in my opinion. I did think he looked good, but ultimately Oklahoma was just too much. Oklahoma is a really good football team right now. They have a Heisman contender in Sean Mateer, who has just been an unbelievable player. He's been one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch. They're now all the way up to 7th in the country. 2 ranked wins underneath their belt. They are rolling right now, and this is going to be a team that will be in the college football playoff. Auburn, they're not dead. They've still got a lot of season left to go. Obviously a brutal loss, but they will be back in my opinion. All right, let's talk about Miami, because Miami, they may be the best team in the country right now. They have continued to look so good defensively. I couldn't have even imagined that this type of defensive performance and awakening would have happened from this team. We get to see them, though, in 2 weeks go on the road against Florida State, which will be an unbelievable game. But for right now, They've been playing some great football. They've already got 2 ranked wins. They're going to play a great game against Florida State. Miami, Carson Beck, they were a little lethargic in the first half. They really came out in the second half and put this game away in the fourth quarter. I've been so impressed with what I've seen from Miami. They're now all the way up to number 2 in the country. This is a Miami team that can win the national championship, folks. They've got enough offensively. They've got a great, tremendous defense. They've got a quarterback with experience, with poise, with talent. He can make every throw on the football field, in my opinion. This is a great Miami team, and we've got a huge matchup in the ACC that we'll probably see again in the ACC championship, if I had to guess, between Miami and Florida State. But this will be an absolute banger. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, we are flying through this football season. I can't even believe it. How are we already into week 4 of the NFL season? We're finishing up week 3 tonight. How are we already onto week 4 of the NFL season? We're already almost halfway through the college football regular season. It goes so fast. It's so fun while we're in the moment, but man, let's enjoy this as much as we absolutely can, because it's going to go so fast and we're not going to have it anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys so much for making me a part of your day. We are live every single Monday and every single Friday to break down the following weekend, to preview the upcoming weekend. I will be live again this Friday at 11:55 Pacific Standard Time, 2:55 Eastern Standard Time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching Caden's Corner from Caden Kubler. We will see you guys on Friday. See you guys.